Hey guys, I'm Aischa,
I'm Emily,
and welcome to Perked Up Parenting.
where coffee is required
Laundry is optional.
and motherhood is always worth talking about.
I just realized I never got myself a cup of coffee.
Oh man, that's because you're a mom.
We just walked in from a date, and I was like, "Oh, we gotta get everyone down so I can get. We need to get through stuff. I gotta get recording." So it was
Yep.
like not on my mind until now. So
I feel my dehydration headache kicking in, so I did not pick coffee. I just got vitamin water.
I like how we started this podcast in a season where we're not drinking as much coffee.
I know. Someday we'll be drinking
We
loads of
literally go
coffee
through
again.
years where we're like, this is my third coffee of the day, and not this
Yep.
season. I mean, I'm having 3 cups. It's just never when I'm recording.
Yeah, because we've been recording later in the day. All the coffee is getting drunk in the morning.
When I was on our Yellowstone trip with my sister, it was great bonding over our love of coffee because, like, she legitimately, like, wakes up in the morning. It was like, we need coffee. Let's find coffee. When are we going to get our coffee? Even if it's canned coffee, any coffee. And I was like, I love your aspirations. Like, I look up to you as
Wait,
a sister.
what is canned coffee?
like like the nitro, like the
Oh,
Starbucks like
like
nitro.
I was thinking like a can of like vegetables.
What was that?
Like a
No,
What was that?
that's Aisha.
Oh.
Yeah. You can say
no,
hi really
we
loud.
are not savages. It's Willow. Hey, girlfriend.
You.
That is me. There's no one hanging out with her, so she's probably gonna pop in and out, but it's okay.
It's raining where Emily's at. Um, well, we uh we picked a topic, uh kind of one that's a bit more serious than what we have been doing. Right after I had the baby, I don't know what came up that spiked the conversation. I mentioned something about my miscarriage, and Emily was like, "We should do a podcast." I'm sure there was me seeing someone else's response to miscarriage and me just being like,
We can't lock it.
having thoughts on it. But at the time, I was like, I'm not ready for that. I too many hormones postpartum. But
Yeah.
um, I was thinking about it a lot because I had my miscarriage in June 4 years ago, and so every early June I always get real sad and think a lot about it. And the kids ask about our miscarriage all the time because they remember. And so we've had a lot of conversations about like what it would have looked like or like how it affected our family. Yeah, you're good. And so we decided this week we would talk about my miscarriage. Just kind of um, share what that journey looked like, share my story, um, share just about it. So I thought that it would be Emily had to step away for a moment, so I'm just sitting here chit-chatting. Uh, First thing that I thought I'd share was just kind of the backstory for those who don't know me or didn't know me through that season. Um, so 4 years ago, I was pregnant, and we were like in between the ninth and 10th week. Like we were fairly far along, like farther along than if it was like I wasn't even sure if I was pregnant situation. Like I definitely knew I was pregnant. I was, we'd had the knowledge for 4 or 5 weeks, and we'd announced it. I announced really early that time, like at 5 weeks, I think. Pretty much as soon as I found out, we announced. It was our third. And I was doing January, which I was so excited about because we had all these spring baby. We had a summer baby and a fall baby. So I was like, oh, a winter baby. That would be phenomenal. Um, and then beginning of June, we had my son's birthday party, and the following week, at, obviously, we shared what this the topic of this podcast. But if you are sensitive to miscarriage or loss, pregnancy loss, this is your like warning to opt out if you prefer not to hear about it. The following week, so like the second week of June, I remember waking up and I had some bloody show and I was like, oh, that's weird. But like I know tons of friends who have bloody show in their first trimester. And I immediately messaged Emily because she's usually my first message in the morning anyway. And she was like, I'll be praying, and that can be totally normal. And I called my midwife, and they brushed it off, and they're like, this is so normal in the first trimester. It's just, and they're like, we can get you in for an ultrasound in the next couple days and just get confirmation. And I was literally ready to see them. I must have already been 10 weeks because I think I was going to see them the following week for my 12-week. I was like within a week of seeing my midwife for the first time. And the day progressed and it became very obvious that I was losing the baby. And thankfully, I didn't have to go in for any medical intervention. I was incredibly blessed in that respect. I didn't have to go in for anything. Like, I literally didn't even go in and see my midwife. I chatted with her on the phone. And we kind of resolved that I was having a miscarriage, and that was pretty much it on that side. And then that summer, that was a rough summer. It happened right at the beginning of June, and I just remember an entire summer of just bursting into tears. Or everyone around me was having babies. I always get pregnant like in a baby wave, and so there was a lot of I was already crocheting multiple baby blankets for other people's babies, and I had to like finish them because I felt like it was important to. I held babies that summer, and I don't know when I got pregnant with. I must have gotten pregnant with my next in it had to only have been like September-ish. I got pregnant with my next
Well,
one. Well,
that
when
was
is she born?
Victory, right?
Yeah, Victor is my
No.
next one.
Yeah, so it would have been in January.
No, Victory's a May baby.
Never
I
mind.
think I got pregnant with her at the end of August actually. So I had
Okay.
like two. It was a brief stint. That I wasn't pregnant. I feel like it felt like forever. Man, because I think I was pregnant. That was the year. I feel like I was pregnant by the time my fair rolled around. So like 2 months. And it felt like forever. June and July was just, we went on a trip during that time, and I remember crying the entire trip when I was driving in the car. Um, I was really feisty and get irritated about things easily and fought people. And
Were you trying to get pregnant again, or were you guys just kind of whatever happens?
we have only ever tried intentionally to get pregnant once, and that was our first. And other than that, it's kind of as long as we're planning on having another baby,
Yeah, just do whatever.
we just do whatever, and then we figure they land. Although it's not landing very well. I have like March.
Your babies are all close together now.
Yeah, I have 2 March, a May, and a June. Like we have clumped birthdays. So, um, anyways, that's kind of like the backstory. But there's a lot of emotions. I feel like looking back now, like going through this, I'm like, oh, that was not a very long stint, but man, it felt like the longest time of my life. Just for how many emotions there were and how much. I feel like you and I talked tons during that season, and there was a lot of like fleshing out of so many emotions and being like you and I had conversations about miscarriage from the perspective of never having experienced one, either of us. And
Hmm.
then, and you still haven't experienced one, thankfully, so thankfully. But we like had conversations on that side, and then me being on the other side of it and being like, oh, this is how, you know, these are kind of the feelings I'm going through. This is kind of my perspective shift. Or having to say with the hard lines I had set with pregnancy previously, am I still standing on those? Like, I know one of the thoughts I had going into never having had a miscarriage was that uh, we should still talk about pregnancy, like even if, like we shouldn't filter our current experiences in order to buffer for other people's unknown experience, like the experiences that we don't know they've had. And I know that was one of those things that I was like, I don't want people to filter their thoughts or their lives around me. I would like, just because I've experienced this loss doesn't mean that they need to filter any part of their life. And I really appreciated when people didn't and were like, I remember I was so excited the first time that somebody asked me when if we were going to have another baby and if we were going to like when we were thinking about like trying again. And I was like, thank you for asking because my life isn't over or like I want to be asked those questions, like hopeful future questions. Um, but
Was there an emotion that you experienced that kind of surprised you? Like maybe like you weren't expecting to.
not an emotion, but you know what surprised me? And then I walked through this with another friend who had a miscarriage, and she said the same exact thing to me. And you even told me that you had never thought about this. Is someone gave me flowers after I had the baby, after I'd lost the baby, and I hated it. Like immediately, I was like, perfect. It's another thing for me to watch die. Like that's not what I want. And I had never thought about that. Like you think that that's something to like give someone when they're grieving or and I feel like it's not the same. Like I've lost grandparents. It's not the same as like when I was grieving in that season, I was like grieving this entire like loss of a future that I had envisioned. Like we wanted this baby, we were excited for this baby. I'd already in my mind did all the math about like I'm gonna be pregnant this far along at Thanksgiving and this far along at Christmas, and I'll be holding this baby, and this is the season. And like you start when you get pregnant, you start doing that, and all of that was just gone. And I was like, the last thing I want is something else to keep alive when I like just had to walk through this. And that was surprising. I wasn't expecting that. And after that, I've told people like I've had a couple people ask me like, what do I get someone who's grieving from a miscarriage? I'm like, not flowers.
No
Nope.
flowers.
Don't give flowers.
That's that has totally stuck with me because I remember like there was a moment where you were like enraged over getting flowers. Like you weren't just not happy, you were angry. And every time I've walked with anybody through a loss now, I'm like, I will not be sending flowers.
It was yeah. That that was really hard. Um, Other unexpected things was just even after I got pregnant, how many times I'd like stop and because it's pregnancy such a long time period, um, I felt like there was like milestones up until that due date that I just had to keep being like, well, I was expecting to have been this pregnant and doing this at this time. Like when we went on our camping trip, I'd planned our camping trip and been like, we must have went in July. Was saying I hadn't I'd had the miscarriage very recently. Well, I only had like a 2 month stint, so I wasn't pregnant yet. We went on this trip, and I remember having made mental plans of how I was going to manage morning sickness while trying to do our family trip for the summer. And then I went on the trip, and I was fine. And I was just sitting there crocheting and reading books in the car, and I was so mad that the trip was not like what I envisioned it'd be. Like I'd made all these mental plans for it to be harder or just to feel sick the whole time, and then I didn't. Also, what surprised me is how quickly my body changed, like reverted back to pre-pregnancy afterwards. Like I was like I didn't really have a belly, but I had like that beginning of like bloat. I was like bloated
Yeah.
and like my abs, I had felt them immediately kind of release the way you do after two babies and you're going to your third. Like you feel like you have a belly right away. And the
Hmm.
next day, my belly was literally flat, like nothing. And all my energy was back. I wasn't dying on the couch. And like it was almost as if like my body had never experienced pregnancy. It was just like over in a snap, which is a blessing in comparison to what could have been like. But also, it just felt so jarring to just like, oh, it never happened, or that is how it felt. And so
Yeah.
that
That
was
would be
hard.
really hard to wake up and just feel like normal-ish.
Yeah. I wasn't sick that pregnancy as much. I was a little bit nauseous, but I was so dead tired. Like I was already taking multiple naps. Like, at like 6, 7 weeks, you start and week eight, it's like peaking, and then like,
Yeah.
so I already had like 4 or 5 weeks of being exhausted, bone tired, and then it was just all literally disappeared. I remember the day after I asked if my nephew could come over because, or maybe it was 2 days after. I don't know. My nephew came over to play with my kids because I just wanted a normal day. And I remember like cleaning the entire house, and it hadn't been cleaned since I was like 5 weeks, and had found out because I was so tired. And I was like, well, I would have preferred a dirty house, I guess. It would have been like fine. I This is how fast it could have been cleaned up if I had had energy. Like I would have survived. And
Yeah. So with miscarriage, um, do you experience this like similar symptoms post like you would postpartum after delivering like a
I
first
had
baby?
no, I had cramping like through the miscarriage, but then afterwards I had nothing. And I wonder if some of it was because it was like, I don't know, I wasn't as far along as like you can have miscarriages later on.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if it was just because I was earlier, or but I do think I was incredibly blessed with a very smooth miscarriage, because that's not what everyone ends up getting to experience, and there's definitely a lot of intervention that can happen. Um, I was thinking, oh, another thing that surprised me was how much it felt like postpartum. Like with people, like I had people bring me meals and food, and they drop off like little gift boxes and flowers and the flowers, and I was like, man, this just sucks. Like I get postpartum, but like, and postpartum's like my favorite time. I love postpartum. I love sitting on the couch for a week straight. I love all of it. And I was like, this feels like postpartum, except I don't get a baby. And that was also awful. And then just how long it stuck with me. Like I just remember sitting in the car and like spontaneously bursting into tears, and that took a long time to go away.
Yeah, I bet.
So
I cannot even imagine. Do you feel like you did you struggle with like your faith through this, like wondering like why, like why God, like why me, why this baby, why? Do you feel like
no,
you dealt with it at all?
and like I think this is an area that I'm really grateful. My husband is so logical, and it's like seeped into me. I'm very logical at this point,
Yeah.
a lot more than I used to be. I used to be a lot more like emotions driven, but it definitely came down to like this is common because we live in a fallen world, and this is just going to happen, and it's unfortunate it happened to me, and I didn't want it to happen, but it wasn't like a punishment. Uh, it was just quite literally like, there was something wrong, and it wasn't going to be a pregnancy that thrived. But on the other side of that, I like the blessing of my faith in it was that I knew that baby had been conceived, and that was a soul, and that I do get to like see that baby someday. Like I have absolute faith that at some point I'm going to get to meet that baby. And the kids always say, like, we had an aunt pass away this last summer, and they were like, "Oh, Aunt Yaya, she's up in heaven with Mama and Papa and the baby, and we'll get to see them all someday. They're just all hanging out up there." And that gives me a lot of like comfort, actually.
Do you want to talk at all about like, because I remember finding this really kind of interesting. Well, I don't know if interesting is the right word
I
actually,
feel
but
like you have
um,
things that you might have noticed that I would have like blacked out. So
no, I remember people wanting to avoid bringing it up too, like talking about the baby at all, and your children, probably mostly Theo, just being like, yeah, my mom's baby died, like very blunt about
yeah,
it, and it really shocking people. They're like,
yes,
don't talk about
it
it.
did.
I'm
It
like,
it did. We were multiple times like around family,
not right now, Max.
and
We're
like
just
Theo would
recording.
bring it up, and I would start crying, and like I that's just normal. I was just gonna cry a lot, and I think that I had just been resolved to that. But they'd be like, "Oh, we don't need to talk about that," and I'm like, "No, like we do need to be able to talk about this. Like I can't. At some point, he might have to go through this, and I would never want him to perceive this experience as like,
Something we have to keep quiet and
yeah,
inside, or
yeah." I'd go places and I would like hear friends whisper to their kids like, "Oh, don't bring up the baby." We like, and that like I understand the perspective of like not intentionally upsetting me or not like upsetting me,
yeah,
but also I felt like it was more hurtful to go about as if it just never happened.
yeah,
Like that, I didn't want the memory to be like erased. Like we were so excited to have that baby, and then just for it to like poof away and everyone to like, oh,
yeah. Even
we
with my
watched a
mom.
movie last night called Sheep Detective. I can't tell you that I recommend it, just FYI. But the sheep in this could like forget things, and so things that were hard or made them feel yucky, they'd just be like 1, 2, 3, boom, and they'd forget things. And I was like, how sad. Like like, and actually I thought about that because I was thinking about how our podcast would go today. I didn't want to live life as if it never happened. And so I really tried hard to just like continue on in whatever I was doing and just like take the hard things as they came at me versus attempting to like stop everything and wait for healing because I knew it was just gonna be long. Honestly, part of me felt like I probably wouldn't feel healed until like we'd gotten pregnant again and had another baby and like gone through a kind of a redemption.
Yeah, I remember just being, I like just really admired the way that you handled everything and walked through it and were so open to talking. Not that you can, experience grief incorrectly, but I just I had never watched anybody like go through a miscarriage, and you were my first, and I was just like amazed at, well, no one close to me anyways, but I was just like amazed at how you handled it, and yeah, I always thought it was really cool that you allowed your children especially to kind of speak freely about it because they were hurting too, and I really loved that.
Um, Something I wanted to mention, there's so many parts of this that I was like, I don't
Yes.
know how to stick them in there, but like, I think it's important to mention. So probably the hardest thing that I did in the postpartum, like after the miscarriage was holding another baby. That was terrible. And I actually underestimated how terrible that was going to be. And I had a friend who in July had a baby. So it was probably like 5 weeks after. And um, I went over to her house and I was like so adamant. I like hyped myself up. I went over to her house alone. I left my kids, I think with my sister-in-law. I don't know. But I somehow got over there alone and was like, I'm gonna give her a gift. I'm gonna hold the baby. I'm gonna be excited for her because nobody deserves to be burdened with my grief in their joy season. Like this is gonna happen, and I went over there
Yes.
and I she was like, "Do you
I
want to hold my
remember that
baby?"
happening.
Because I'm a baby holder and I love holding babies. And she's like, "Do you want to hold the
Yeah.
baby?" And I took the baby. Um, and there's a random person there. I don't. Another friend was visiting like at the same time, who didn't know me, and so she was holding the baby. She handed the baby off to me, and I was like literally standing there with this baby in my arms, like looking at it, and like I was like, oh my gosh, this was actually a really bad idea. I can't do this. I actually physically can't. And the lady looks at me and she's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like holding my breath, and my friend, her name's Aubrey, like took the baby from me, and she's like, "Oh, he needs to nurse. Here, Tim. I'll be out in a minute to nurse the baby." And she like drug me inside, and I was like physically could not hold my like if there was ever a time I was hyperventilating and like physically falling apart, it was right then. And like just touching that baby was like earth shattering to my whole entire body. Um, and that was in I like looked at her and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hold my niece because my niece was like due. I had a niece that was gonna be due in August. I think I happened to be
Mhm.
pregnant by the time she was born, but it's like I don't think I'm gonna be able to hold my niece. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Like, and she was like, No, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. And so that was incredibly hard. Um, yeah, that's
Wow.
something I wish I'd given myself a little more space. And maybe like I totally could have told my friend like I'm not ready to see a baby right now. Um, so I feel like maybe I should have given myself some space, or maybe I'm also proud that I just did something hard to celebrate someone else's baby. It's kind of an in between because
Yeah.
she deserved excitement in her postpartum season, and I was a very very close friend. So
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have even thought about that. My other friend that I was close with that had a miscarriage, I was with her in the hospital and I had just had Rowan. And so I had to bring him with me. And I remember, like, I had stuff to drop off to her and I was like, I can just drop it off and run because I don't want to bring this baby into this space. And for her, she was like begging me to stay and just let me hold your baby. That's all she wanted was to
yeah,
hold him. And so I think that's interesting that it can kind of go
yeah,
either way.
yeah.
Mm.
No, it's stuff that
Uh,
I didn't never even thought about. Like I would have never given a second thought to.
so before we run out of time, how has it affected your pregnancies after? Has that changed like how you approached prenatal care? I mean, I've watched you deal with like a little more anxiety, especially in your first pregnancy after, but
Victory's pregnancy, for sure. I was super anxious.
I'll be right out, guys.
And I have like weird fears. Like I never have my babies kick until like 20 weeks, and I know that you've experienced similar. And that like at one point didn't freak me out, and now it freaks me out every single time. Like I am anxious until I get movement, and that's always like 20 weeks, which seems so far.
It's a long wait.
Um, I have opted one thing, I've just become like less adamant about avoiding certain things. Like I will take a first trimester ultrasound if it's going to give me peace of mind. Like I genuinely value being able to have like peace in my pregnancy over attempting to avoid certain things. And so I've gone and done, I think my third and my fourth, I had like 7, 8 week ultrasounds at a local pregnancy center, and that's I don't feel any shame about it. I remember my first two. I just thought that it was the worst thing you could do to have a first trimester ultrasound, and I have far less judgment over that now. So Yeah, anything to give me peace. I also think I opted not to see my midwife until 16 weeks with my second baby, and I have never asked for that again. I was just like, you know what? The sooner I can get in and see someone and like give myself, my body this like feeling of like we're in this, we're pregnant, like the more settled I can be in the pregnancy, the better. And there's no shame in being with somebody who can walk through the emotions with you, but also there's no shame in like what could be perceived as medicalization if it's going to give peace.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, all those early checks, if they're going to make you feel better, then absolutely, because we all know stress is also not
yeah,
helpful.
yeah, and it has varied. Like with my most recent pregnancy, I didn't have any first trimester. Like I barely blinked in my first trimester. I felt like it was over, and I was supposed to be in for my 12-week appointment, and like it was quick. I didn't have a an ultrasound early on, but and so it gets different. It's gotten easier. I think this last pregnancy was my least stressful, and I rarely thought about my miscarriage. So
It gets better.
it gets
That's good.
better. I've had 3 post miscarriage. I consider myself very blessed. I've only had 1 miscarriage out of five babies, but um, I had down here like advice to give. Um, announce early, celebrate those babies. Like you're either gonna celebrate alone or you're gonna celebrate with people who are excited you're gonna have a baby and then they're there to mourn with you. And I I can't. It takes vulnerability to celebrate with people and mourn with people. I can't urge you enough to just like acknowledge pregnancies and share early, even if it's just with like a pocket of people. There's a gal I know who literally only shared her entire pregnancy with like 5 or 6 of us. Um, and that was great. Like she had people who if things were happening, we could pray with her, but like waiting till 12 weeks, we need to ditch the whole 12-week like wait till
Yeah.
then in case you have a miscarriage idea. It's not it. So
That's actually, I was going to ask you that question too, is if you changed how you announced after that. So I'm glad you already answered it.
I can't. I've attempted to like. I think it'd be funny to be like, guys, we're 16 weeks pregnant, and then everyone be like, what? That's just never gonna happen for us. And I think that this is like a testament of our community because I am at gym classes twice a week. We have close family. We are constantly with people. I actually can't hide. Like I attempted to hide this last pregnancy, and my sister and brother-in-law clawed it out of me. And I was
Yep.
really mad because I was like, I wanted to tell you guys, and you guys are just over here for like 2, 3 weeks in a row. They're like, we know you're pregnant, Aisha. It's very obvious. You like, you,
I remember that. That was funny.
yeah, well, yeah, it was funny-ish now. But yeah, share early. It's not worth waiting. Just celebrate those babies because, whether or not you get to carry that sweet baby full term or not, it still counts
Important to
as part of
celebrate.
your motherhood. It's a human. Like it's as much of a human as anyone else. It deserves the dignity that any other human deserves, which is acknowledgement and love and excitement.
Do you do anything to celebrate like yearly, like a birthday or anything like that?
No, I don't. Not I don't know if it's as much intentional as I just I'm not one for like acknowledgement of the dead, if I'm being
Mhm.
like completely blunt. So I don't hold any acknowledgement to my grandmother's death or birthday. My grandfather's. I was actually really close with my grandmother, and I don't even acknowledge hers. Um, more so because I know my grandma's in heaven. I know my baby's in heaven. I'm not going to celebrate death when they're still living in a better life than I am. So
Oh, um, I forgot what I was gonna ask you now.
was one of those the ones that you were like, I want to spring it on you?
No. Are you ready for that, or do you have
Okay.
more?
No, I feel like that was, I feel like I end up getting like waves of inspiration, and I'll write something online, and I have quite a few posts that I try to cycle through and reshare. Just it was a wild experience, and um, I'm glad it's
Sorry, I'm
fun.
laughing at the baby.
Yeah,
No,
the baby's
I
eating my
love him.
hand.
I've been watching him this whole time.
He's yeah. If you guys, this is YouTube us. I know that you guys want to eat, listen, and like do dishes and stuff, and that's aspirational and all. But
Prop your phone up next to the counter, you'll be fine.
yeah, the baby has been in basically this entire podcast episode, and he's eaten my
He's a
arm,
good
and
co-host.
he's so
And
cute.
he just keeps getting more fun each time.
He laughed this
Yes.
week. He like belly laughed
This is
in the
my
middle of workout
favorite.
class, and it's so good. It's so good. There's redemption, guys. If you've experienced a miscarriage, there's redemption, there's hope, there's so much beyond that season of grief. Okay, spring it on me, whatever this crazy question is.
All right, if you could sit across from the version of yourself who had just had a miscarriage, what would you say now?
Oh man.
I told you you could read it before.
No. No, I like spontaneous questions. Just that I don't you just don't know the goodness that is ahead. Like there's so much goodness. Wherever you're at, like that season is not the all end of what's happening in your life. And there's so much like it's wild to think about like the joy that Victory has brought us. So our next baby we named Victory, and she's like an absolute joy. Like she is our mama. She is taking care of us. She told us that when we're old and decrepit, she'll stay and care for us. And like, it's so hard because, and you just never want to do the what if game. Like, we have the babies we're meant to have, and there's so much joy in that. And I do think I say this, and I know it comes from a place of blessing and privilege, and that we get to have more babies. I know that there's some people who experience multiple miscarriages, secondary infertility, and that's a different kind of hard that I obviously can't attest to. Um, but man, that's where faith comes in. Like, I have such a strong faith that I'm going to get to see my baby again someday. And so, and it's, you know, and once you get to a place that you're comfortable with it, it's going to feel good to embrace like that was part of your story. I try really hard to, oh, that's when this came up. I had mentioned that you had mentioned that between us we had 11 pregnancies, and you were like, actually, we've had 12. And I was like, it's really hard to like explain that. I had someone who asked my mother-in-law if I had 6 babies, and
Hmm.
she was like, I thought she only had 5. And my mother-in-law was like, oh no, she had a miscarriage. She always counts it, and like
Hmm.
was just like really encouraging. And but sometimes it can be hard to. I try really hard to always include that pregnancy so that other women feel like they have the space. Like if I can be
To
vulnerable and
talk
have the
about
space
it.
to include my miscarriage
Yeah.
as a little person, then they can too.
Yep. I love that. I always love that you include the baby. I think it's special, and it's a great. I think that's a really kind of beautiful way to just honor that that was a life. Like we're not just erasing it or her or her. Oh, we don't know.
You know, the most random memory I have from that time period was you sharing with me that Emily cried about me losing the
Oh
baby.
yeah.
You guys were in Hawaii, and I just remember you like messaging me, and she's like, Emily's crying over it, like, we're so sorry. And it
Yeah, because I
was,
think we had just seen you. So
yeah,
you were like really fresh in her mind still.
hmm Yeah, and I was just like, when Emily is such, I love Emily so much. She is
She's
such a, she just embodies the kind of like feminine, like
she's a
all
girl's
the
girl.
all the ladies kind of vibes. And she, I feel like you've told me she's cried over multiple birth videos of mine. Like she is
Yep.
happy when I'm having babies. She was sad for me in my miscarriage. Like the girl just embodies what I think that we should be encouraging all of our young women to be, which is, you know, female communal energy. It's what we
Yep.
need. And Emily just lives it.
She does. She has cried every single time I've told her anybody has lost a baby. It's
I love her so
but
much.
she wants to know. Like she doesn't. She's like, don't ever hide.
Yeah, I love her so much.
She's
She's
super
the
sweet.
best. So, okay.
Well, I know that that was a hard topic, and we usually keep things pretty light, but I really do hope that it has encouraged someone or given
Yes.
insight for those of us that have never experienced it. But yeah, if you're a mom that's currently in that season, I hope that this has been hopeful
I
in
hope
some
that if
way.
you get to serve a woman in that season that
Don't
you
give her
don't bring
flowers.
her flowers.
That's the
So
takeaway.
that's don't bring her flowers, food. Always food. Food and chocolate, like
Yeah,
yes.
and
Flowers,
talk
no.
about the baby.
Yeah. So,
All
okay
right.
guys.
Well, we'll see you next week, and
See you next
thanks for
week.
hanging out. Bye.
Bye.